Welcome, this is a recorded session of the Post-Quantum Cryptography Conference of the PKI Consortium. This conference would not have been possible without our sponsors, PQ Shield, SSL.com, Entrust, Keyfactor, HID Global, and the organizational support of the Post-Quantum Cryptography Working Group of the PKI Consortium, and in particular, Entrust, Keyfactor, and Logius. Would you like to join the PKI Consortium? Go to pkic.org/join, or contact us if you would like to become a sponsor.
My name is Chris Gantus, and I'm a Technical Solutions Director at Entrust, and I have the pleasure this morning of introducing the next round of speakers. This gentleman here needs no introduction. He's spent a few hours yesterday up on the forum doing a couple of presentations and some panel conversations. So, Andrew, it's all yours.
Well, thank you. Yeah, yesterday I had a chance to talk about NIST's post-quantum cryptography standardization project. You know, that began more than a decade ago and has been taking up really the majority of my team's attention at NIST as we focused on, soliciting and evaluating proposals for the, post-quantum cryptography standards. This has been an incredible, has had incredible, involvement from cryptographers around the world. We had to the first, process 82 submissions, from, 26 countries, I believe, across 6 continents. So, it's been exciting to see this play out. Thank you. So as I discussed yesterday, just last August, NIST announced the first 3 post-quantum. There we go. There we go. So just last August, we announced the first 3 NIST post-quantum cryptography standards. These were, in FIPS 203, ML-Chem, based on the Crystal's Kyber submission, FIPS 204, MLDSA, based on the Crystal's dilithium submission, FIPS 205 on SLH-DSA, based on Sphinx Plus, and not yet released, but in development is FIPS 206, based on the Falcon submission to the process. Now, we're very confident in the security of these schemes, as I said yesterday. But the primary schemes here that are suitable for general use are all lattice-based schemes. With the lattice-based ML-Chem and the lattice-based MLDSA and upcoming Falcon standards. So, at NIST, we're very interested in having additional tools in our toolkit for digital signature schemes, both from a security perspective, but also to have some, diversity in performance. So, we would like to see additional signature schemes based on different mathematical problems. In addition to providing some, varied problems for security, this would also give us a chance to look at schemes with different performance characteristics. So if we could have signature schemes that provide very short signatures or very fast signature verification, potentially trading off other aspects like public key size. This could be very important, maybe not for general purpose use cases, but for certain niche use cases. Thinking about things like, like maybe signing GPS messages as one example, or infrastructure to vehicle communications. We have not been as interested in new lattice-based schemes because we think we have some very good options already with MLDSA and Falcon. But obviously we're interested in any new proposals that could have significant security or performance advantages. But at the end of the process, of that process that began back in 2016, we didn't see any schemes that really would fit the bill outside of the lattice-based schemes that we had in that process. We also thought that we had learned a great deal as we were as the community evaluated those submissions, and that what we would receive today for lattice-based or for non-lattice-based algorithms would be very different than what we received back in 2017. So as a result of that, NIST decided to establish an on-ramp for considering additional or new signature schemes into our standardization process. So at the same time that NIST announced those first 4 selections within our process, NIST also announced our intent to establish an on-ramp for considering new signature schemes. This was back in July of 2022. We published our call for proposals back in September of 2022 and received 50 submissions to the process in 2023. And this also had a great deal of involvement. We had 50 submissions to the process from 28 countries across 5 continents. And we also saw a lot of variability, a lot of different designs submitted to this process across all of the major families of post-quantum cryptography. So, of those 50 submissions, 40 met the submission requirements as complete and proper, and these came from a broad range of families. We had 10 multivariate schemes, mostly based on UOV. We had 7 MPC in the head based submissions, 6 code-based schemes, and 7 lattice-based schemes. Now, as I said earlier, the bar for those lattice-based schemes was high. We think that MLDSA and Falcon are good algorithms. So we were, looking for, as I said, we're looking for much stronger security or performance properties to really consider those. Within this first round, we saw a number of breaks. Probably about 10 of the submissions in this process had significant cryptanalytic results that identified significant weaknesses or vulnerabilities. Another 10 had, I'll say, less serious but still significant results published against them. And that was something that we obviously looked at very carefully in this process. But I'll note, just having some results was not enough to kick them out of the process. There's kind of 2 major goals that we have in this. Obviously, first and foremost, NIST wants to come away with secure and well understood algorithms to standardize. But in order to do that, we need to advance the state of cryptography and mathematics. So some of what we're trying to do within these processes is facilitate research into the families of mathematical problems and the schemes that we think are interesting. So last October, we announced the 14 candidates that will be moving on, or that have moved on now, to the second round of the on-ramp process. And again, this includes representative algorithms from all of the major families of post-quantum cryptography digital signature algorithms, from multivariate, MPC in the head, lattice, code, symmetric, and isogenes. At the same time, we released NIST IR 8528, describing, going through each of these algorithms and describing our analysis and what we'd like to see in the second round evaluation. So I'm going to take a little bit of time today now to kind of go through each of these families to talk about kind of the security properties and the performance properties of these of these schemes. And I'm going to start with the multivariate-based schemes. So the multivariate-based schemes that we have in the process now are all UOV-based schemes, unbalanced oil and vinegar schemes. These are based on solving multivariate quadratic equations, where the system is constructed such that knowledge of some hidden structure in the oil and vinegar variables provides the trapdoor for computing efficient signatures. These are all hash and signed based schemes where you map a message into a specific point in that quadratic system's range, and then sign by finding a pre-image using knowledge of that underlying structure. They're called unbalanced because there's a larger number of vinegar variables than oil variables. So UOV schemes have been around for over 20 years now. They're the schemes are, the design is well understood. They provide very short signatures and very fast performance, but they provide but at the cost of having very large, public key sizes, unless, as you'll see, you provide some additional structure within the scheme. So within the second round, we do have one classic UOV-based scheme, really going back to that original 1999 design. Try again. Oh. There we go. So we have the classic UOV-based scheme from 1999. This has very fast, as you'll see, signing and verification performance, but the public key sizes are very, very large, on the order of 1 megabyte. The remaining 3 schemes all add, additional structure that, reduces the public key size to kind of get a better trade-off between, that size and, signing and verification performance. But that's where things get, tricky, and that's where within the original process, we saw, breaks with some of the UOV-based schemes. And so it remains to be seen, where the, cryptanalysis will go, with those structured multivariate schemes. So within the second round, we have, QR UOV or quotient ring UOV that has, is able to achieve smaller public key sizes, but does have significantly slower signing and verification performance. We also have MAYO and SNOVA. Both of those schemes, are also able to achieve smaller public key sizes. We have seen both generic results and targeted results against these schemes starting to threaten some of the parameter sets that have been proposed by these submitters. And so there's certainly a need for, greater cryptanalysis of these schemes to have, if we want to obtain confidence in their design. I'll kind of come back at the end and do a summary of the performance, but as you can see, with these UOV-based schemes, like classic UOV does have that very, very large public key size, but strong signing and verification performance. But those trade-offs are a little bit different when you look at the other structured UOV schemes that do achieve smaller public key sizes with slower performance. Second category of algorithms that we have in the second round are the MPC in the head based schemes. And as the name implies, these schemes use secure multi-party computation protocols to build post-quantum signature schemes. Roughly speaking, the signature is a zero-knowledge proof demonstrating knowledge of a solution to a hard problem. These are called in the head because the cryptographic constructions are, this protocol is simulated by the signer as opposed to being done across multiple parties. And they use a fiat-Shamir transform to make these proofs non-interactive. The underlying hard problem used by the MPC and the head-based schemes can vary. This provides some diversity for the mathematical, for the problems that the security of these schemes are based on. So MPC and the head-based schemes typically have small public keys, and they have very flexible designs adapting to these different mathematical problems. But they tend to be computationally expensive, and they're also very complicated, both the design and specifications of the schemes themselves, as well as the implementations. These schemes also tend to have large signatures. But it is an area that's been advancing quickly, and even within the first round, we've seen a lot of tweaks to the designs and a lot of performance improvements as well. So we have 5 different MPC in the head schemes based on different categories of problems. We have the Miroth scheme that's was the result of a merger between the Mira and the Mirith teams in the first round of the process. This one's based on the min-rank problem. We have the SD in the head and RIDE schemes that are based on the rank syndrome decoding and syndrome decoding problems that we often see with code-based cryptography. We have the PERC algorithm based on the permuted kernel problem. This is believed to be a hard problem, but it's an area where there's still some questions about the concrete complexity of that problem at the parameter sizes that PERC uses. And finally, we have the MCOM submission based on the difficulty of solving random multivariate systems of quadratic equations. Again, these, it's been interesting to see the advancement both during the original process as well as during the first round of the on-ramp. This is a space that's advancing rapidly. I think we're going to see significant tweaks or additions to several of these schemes going into the second round. That's going to create some challenges then for doing the analysis and building confidence. But I think we're also going to see sort of the science and mathematics of cryptography, continue to move forward at a good pace with all of this research going on into these schemes. The MPC and the head schemes, like a lot of them have, a lot of different parameter sets, a lot of different variants that are trying to achieve different cost and performance trade-offs. At a high level, you can kind of see that most of these schemes have that small public key size, fairly large signature sizes, and the often nearing the 20,000 bytes. And moderate performance that's quite a bit slower than what we have with the lattice-based algorithms. For the lattice-based schemes, we have one submission remaining. This is the Hawk algorithm. Hawk is a lattice hash and sign based signature scheme that has some similarities to the Falcon algorithm that we saw in the original process, but ultimately uses very different, based on a different mathematical problem. Here, security is building off of the lattice isomorphism problem. Here the public key is derived from a bad basis for an integer lattice. The secret key can be thought of as giving the mapping between the bad basis to the standard basis. When you sign a message, you hash it and interpret it as a combination of those bad basis vectors. And when you and the signer then uses knowledge of that standard basis to find an element that's sufficiently close without leaking information about that standard basis. Now, in the case of the Falcon algorithm, that uses Gaussian sampling and a fast Fourier transform to do, to find an element that's sufficiently close in that signing process. And this ultimately requires use of, floating point arithmetic and brings with it then all of the security and implementation pitfalls that floating point brings. Hawk's approach avoids that complexity with floating point arithmetic, but in return, it relies on less conventional lattice problems. In this case, the one more shortest vector problem and the search module lattice isomorphism problem. And both the fact that this is a new design based on these less conventional, less studied lattice-based problems, really emphasizes the need for more analysis into this design. But it is very interesting. It provides, as you see, very strong performance, avoids the problematic floating point arithmetic. But ultimately, it's the performance is not that significantly different from the Falcon algorithm that we intend to standardize. All right, the next category of schemes are the code-based schemes, cross and less. So cross is based on on really two variants of traditional syndrome decoding problems: the restricted syndrome decoding problem and the restricted syndrome decoding problem with subgroup G. The former is considered a more conservative assumption. Like many code-based schemes, cross has different parameter sets for either achieving small sizes or fast performance. Ultimately, those signature sizes are similar to SLH-DSA, but cross provides much faster signing performance. Less is very different. Less is a novel design, ultimately based on the linear equivalence problem. While this isn't a new problem in the code world, it's kind of new to crypto, and more study is really needed for confidence in the security of this design. But one thing that's interesting is that the LESS team has proposed a variant that would provide much smaller signature sizes on the order of about 3 kilobytes, but would use a different variant of that linear equivalence problem. So again, this is an example of a really an interesting design, but one that's going to require more research by the cryptographic community. Yeah, I know. It's gonna go like 3 slides forward. Yep. The last two schemes are feast and ski sign. So feast is interesting. It's in the category of symmetric schemes within the second round. It's kind of a variation of the MPC and the head schemes, but it uses a different framework, the vector oblivious linear evaluation, or VOLI, in the head framework. What's interesting here is if that security framework holds, the unforgeability of feast signatures relies then only on the security of the underlying block cipher, in this case, AES. And this is a new idea, a really interesting one, and it'll be exciting to see where the community goes with this. As we go into the second round, feast will probably not be, or I think we know it won't be, the only VOLI in the head based scheme. We've heard from some of the MPC and the head submission teams that they intend to adopt that framework as well. So it'll be, this obviously creates challenges given the fast-moving pace of tweaks, but it'll be interesting to see what the cryptographic community is able to do, both in terms of these designs as well as analysis. And the final scheme is ski sign. Ski sign is an isogeny-based scheme where security is based on knowledge of a secret elliptic curve isogeny. Ski sign has very small signatures and public key sizes, although at the cost of very slow performance, although we are seeing some improvements there. But of course, you can't bring up isogenies without also bringing up psych, the isogeny-based chem that was broken late in the original process. And while there are some similarities, obviously, between ski sign and psych, they do ultimately use different assumptions and different techniques. However, I'll acknowledge that late break in psych demonstrated that we still have much to learn about the analysis of isogeny-based crypto. So we hope that including ski sign in this second round will facilitate more research into that area of cryptography. So there's a lot of schemes, right? A lot of schemes, a lot of different parameter sets, a lot of different variants. I wanted to kind of give you a view of, of kind of what performance looks like. I do want to add a caveat, though, that, at this stage, there's a lot of variations in I'll say the quality of submissions and the level of optimization in the submissions. So, take all of these performance figures with a grain of salt. They're based on the submitted performance numbers by the teams to the first round using the Category 3 submissions. But I think they're still valid for giving a general area of performance. So here I have a kind of a scatter plot of those parameter sets with the x-axis showing the signing and verification speed in cycles, and y showing the public key and signature sizes in bytes. That bottom left corner then is where you'd really like to be, and this shows it's tough to beat the performance of lattice-based crypto. That's in that corner is where you see MLDSA, Falcon, and the new Hawk scheme. In the middle there, in the yellow dots, is where you see the variety of MPC and the head-based schemes with their larger signatures. Now, the two big outliers that you see, and I should highlight that this is a log-based scale, not linear, is UOV in that top left-hand side with its very fast performance, but megabyte-sized public key. And at the bottom right, you see SkiSign with its very small signatures and public key size, but very slow performance. Now, you're not always going to care about both signing and verification speed. So if you're in a case where you just care about verification, it ultimately doesn't change the landscape that much. The schemes then that benefit are the ones that have the unusually slow performance. I get that to pull up here. That'll be largely SkiSign kind of slides over, as well as SLH-DSA. But really, the picture there, things might slide around a little bit within the families, but that doesn't change the picture that much. Now, if you only care about the size of the signature and not the public key, then that's where the multivariate schemes shine with their very small signature sizes. Where you see all of those UOV, the SNOVA, MAYO, QRUOV, drop. So I think from my perspective, this really does show that those lattice-based schemes like we have with MLDSA are going to be tough to beat in terms of performance for general purposes. The one place where where it is interesting to see where things go will be with UOV, but that's largely going to be in cases where you might just care about the size of the signatures and can accept fairly large public keys. To wrap up, the second round will be has begun. We plan to have a third round, an additional cut of those algorithms that would take place in 2026. We've asked teams if they have tweaks to their submissions. We think many of them will. The deadline for those tweaks has been extended to February 5th, and all of those tweaks then will be posted on our website. Later this year, in September, we'll be holding an in-person conference in the DC area. We're still locking down the venue, but the intent of this 6th PQC standardization conference will be in large part to look at these on-ramp signatures. And of course, MLChem, MLDSA, SLH-DSA, those are already out as of August 2024, with the Falcon standard under development for hopefully release later in the next few months. And also in the next few months, we expect to make an announcement on the 4th round chems. So for those of you who are not already signed up to the PQC forum, that's a great place to get regular updates from us, and also to chime in with any feedback you have on the candidates. So used up a bit more time than I expected, but maybe for a couple questions.
We do have a couple minutes for questions in the room, as well as absolutely line up for in-room questions. Oh, there's no mic.
Thanks. Will Oxford Nanometric. Thanks for the great overview. It's really helpful to have it all put together in one place like that. From the UOV standpoint, a lot of the security assumptions are based on an underlying structure that's hidden. My question is, do you have any concerns or have people express concerns about the ability of machine learning to suss out that structure in ways that that a human cryptographer might not?
Well, certainly, as I said, I mean, I think that that structure is, has been, already used to attack other schemes. So I think, whether it's by a human cryptographer or machine learning, I don't know what kind of tools you might use. I mean, I think that's going to be where where a lot of the cryptanalysis attention is focused on those UOV-based schemes in the second round.
Thanks.
Stephen Yu from Sandbox CQ. Thanks for the talk. I was wondering, because we saw the schemes that you listed on the slides. There are some MPC in the head schemes that also uses like code-based problems, and there are also like code-based signature schemes. Do we intend to evaluate them differently in their categories, or do we kind of like look at all of these things together?
We look at them together. I mean, it's convenient because there's so many schemes to be able to put them in buckets. Obviously, as you noticed, you could have put things like Feast in a different category. When we were put them in these different categories, we just based on what the submitters themselves, how they describe their algorithm.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hi, Andy. I wanted to ask about IoT. So there are obviously some challenges, and there are a breadth of solutions required for different IoT use cases. What you've just presented sort of shows that some of that thinking is happening. How is that going to be translated into how the cryptography is applied across the different IoT components and IoT solutions?
So all of these designs, they have very different performance and implementation trade-offs. And I think at NIST, we don't know what's ultimately going to be most important in some of those use cases and in some of those, implementation environments. So I think, it would be great to hear from those communities that are both building those protocols and building those chips to understand what's going to be needed within those use cases.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. I have two related questions. The first question is on the first three selected candidates. Have those started going through the CVMP process at all?
Yeah, we had testing ready for those first three standards on the day those standards, the final standards were released. Yes.
Did they prepare all of their submissions with the formal methods approach to where you can run them through the formal methods testing?
Well, they went through the automated testing, automated algorithm validation program server, not using formal methods, but using the automated system.
Okay. Are you asking all of the new submissions to submit them in that form? Or are you just letting them submit them?
So those are two different processes, right? The submission to CMVP and our FIPS 140 testing program is different than the submissions to the competition-like process for evaluating those. So no, I mean, we don't expect the submissions to the standardization process to be, using anything on the testing side.
Okay. If they don't start out writing them secure by design approach, which formal methods?
Certainly.
requires.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are, I'll say, different problems that'll be addressed at different times.
Okay, thank you.
We do. Yep. We're currently trying to create defenses against attacks by quantum computers using conventional computers. Once quantum computers are available, will we be able to create better defenses against attacks by quantum computers? Is there any ongoing work on the algorithms running on quantum computers?
So, I mean, this is a dangerous statement to make, but I mean, at least we're proceeding with the idea that you're not going to have a quantum computer on your desktop. So we need strong cryptography that can run on classical computers. And so that's where the focus of our standards effort is these post-quantum cryptography algorithms that can run on the computers that we use today.
And one more question, is standardization planned to support PQ key negotiation, DH-like, or only chem?
It's chem-like. I think that's an area where I think looking at the new the guidelines that we have in the draft SB 800-227 is going to give you some insight into how we see those chems being used in protocols.